welcome to another episode of Beyond the Black Rims. I'm Mars Girl.
I'm Josh Knight the First.
This is Season 3, Episode 12.
Or Episode 58 if you're counting.
And we are a little off-center. Things were kind of crazy for a little bit here. If you're with us live right now, I want to say thank you for hanging out with us while we try and figure out what was going on. Twitch had some really strange network issues happening tonight.
Yeah.
Really
out of our control. We made sure it wasn't anything on our end. All our cables are plugged in as they should be.
Unplugged and replugged things even. We did exactly what tech support would have told us to do.
Exactly.
So, somebody mentioned it in the chat a little bit earlier, and I think maybe there might be something to it. Like, maybe it's Watch Dogs hype release day or something.
Well, Watch Dogs has been out for, what, about a day now, give or take?
I'm just saying, like, there was, like, a ban on streaming anything from Watch Dogs up until, like, the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe there's something to that. All I know is that, like, every server I tried to connect to had really bad jitter, except for this one in San Francisco. One.
Yeah.
So that's the one I'm streaming on right now. So thank you again for making sure that for being with us if you're here with us live right now.
You know, it takes a lot to have to put up with, you know, waiting for things nowadays. Everybody wants stuff now, so we appreciate your patience.
Very, very much appreciated. So
we've got a couple of people bringing it up. You have a new shirt on at the moment.
Yeah, I do. Of course, the Fami Common Writer shirt that our dear friend Justin Juwario, of course, who was the Fami Common Writer in a number of his reviews, been feeling really nostalgic lately, I must admit. Sometimes you kind of just, you have those days where I don't know if you would call it lapsing or relapsing, but
you want to hear a voice again, or you want to go back and watch some things over. No, that's completely understandable.
You can never completely bring somebody back, you know, but I don't think there's anything wrong with the memories or wanting to go back and get a piece of it again, you know, and so, yeah, I did go to the old Zazzle shop. These shirts are still available. I think a lot of Justin's You Can Play This shirts are still available.
Yeah.
I would almost suggest you go look for them yourself. Again, it's a Zazzle shop. I don't have the exact link right now or anything, but
yeah.
It's really quite a nice shirt, even for the cheap one that I got.
Yeah, it's still pretty good.
There are some good baseball tees, actually.
I was thinking of getting one for myself.
Yeah.
I don't own very many baseball tees because, for some reason, I have this weird thing with baseball tees. They always get torn whenever I get them.
Yeah.
You know how some people have that problem with socks? You know, you get a pair, put them in the washing machine, then you come back with just one.
Mm-hmm.
I have that problem with baseball t-shirts. They always rip one way or another. Either it gets caught on a fence, you know, a chain link fence, or
what are you doing around a chain link fence?
You know, just as a kid growing up, you know, you're out playing baseball, you know, you jump over a fence, sometimes it gets caught, you know, it happens. And then there's the weird stuff like,
okay, so
somehow,
not anytime recently.
Well, no, that's because I had to stop, because somewhere in high school, it just started happening randomly, like nails and wood planks popping out of nowhere and just ripping shirts. It's an annoyance to me that I don't want to have to put up with, but I would like to eventually get back to that.
There is one person asking, and I just, you know, I want to let you guys know that usually we save Q&As and stuff for the end of our show, if you're here with us live, but one person, since we're on the topic, was asking, is anyone here preserving YCPT, You Can Play This? I can tell you for certain that, yes, there is one individual who is saving absolutely everything, so it will be saved for posterity, for somebody at some point in the future. If for some reason, as we'll probably bring up here a little bit in the show, if, like, the whole blip-apocalypse really comes crashing down on everybody, I think there will still be somebody who helps keep a piece of Justin on the internet, you know? So, that having been said, why don't we talk about some other stuff going on?
Okay, so normally on the show we talk about different Kickstarters, different Indiegogos, things that cover a variety of nerd topics and things like that. But every so often, you know, we don't cover all the things that are out there. Granted, you have your options of anything you could throw your money at. And two things in particular this week came to our attention. One was the Solar Roadways Kickstarter. If you guys hadn't seen the video from it, it practically went viral. This thing looks amazing. Like, this is the closest to the, without flying cars, Jetsons sort of future that we're looking at. You know, roads that can redesign themselves as to where the lines are. You don't need near as much maintenance.
Or they'll light up when someone or something walks out or falls out into the middle of the road and it's late at night and otherwise you would never be able to see it. Like, that's friggin' amazing.
Or they can melt snow on their own.
Or convert, you know, sunlight into energy, you know.
Yeah, basically eliminating all those costs that go into roads. And given the fact that this year has been a bad year for me and potholes, I supported that. The idea of the solar panel roadways. And then you look at other stuff like, some people are bringing it up here in the chat, something very important from our childhoods growing up, Reading Rainbow, which is, of course hosted by LeVar Burton of Star Trek fame, Star Trek The Next Generation, launched their Kickstarter yesterday for raising $1 million to basically bring back the program.
But not on television. They actually did not say on television.
No, but as a...
in classroom studies and internet subscriptions. Basically, Reading Rainbow for today's media and today's children. Where television, you know, they maybe don't sit down for the exact same program every single afternoon the way we did. It just isn't really the same kind of atmosphere.
It's one thing to say it's a different time, but at the same time, the service that show provided growing up, I remember that was part of the block I used to watch when I came home from school.
Oh yeah, you know, there was a Reading Rainbow, Bill Nye the Science Guy, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? We're like,
and Wishbone, don't diss Wishbone.
I'm sorry, but that came kind of later. And
hey, I stuck around for Wishbone.
I'm just saying my trifecta was right there.
Well, I got my fourfecta, so beat that.
Okay, not a word, but you know, that's cool too.
Speaking of words,
speaking of Reading Rainbow.
So yes, that was a very big part of our childhood. Well, this Kickstarter launched yesterday, sometime in the morning. It only took them, think about this, 12 hours to raise $1 million. Like, I was there watching it.
Yeah, for a while we were just sitting there staring at the Kickstarter screen, watching the dollars tick by.
It would just keep going up. $5, $10, $1,000, up and up and up. And 3 minutes before 7 p.m. Central Time, that's when they hit it. And then they kept going.
It's already more than doubled its goal.
Over $2 million.
And it's only been 2 days.
And the most extraordinary thing...
Not even a full 2 days.
The most extraordinary thing about it, they did that without any stretch goal incentives.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing, right? Like, for Mighty Number 9,
yeah, exactly.
For Mighty Number 9, they were like, hey, if you donate more than what we actually need, we can provide you with even more than what we were planning on. This and this and this and this. And so people were like, man, we really want to see these stretch goals. But it's like, who needs a stretch goal for Reading Rainbow? All you have to do is hear the title Reading Rainbow, hear the theme song, see LeVar Burton.
Yes.
And that is like all it took for people to get behind it. And then if you saw his response video to watching the counter tick over to
$1 million.
To $1 million, man, you saw how touched this man was.
Exactly.
Like, it's more than... LeVar Burton very clearly is more than just a face for Reading Rainbow. Like, you can't be the host of Reading Rainbow for over 30 years and not be like, this is my project too, this is my passion project as well. Dude was just in tears, and I wanted to cry too. I thought it was incredible.
Because you think about it too, the incentives that were there on the Kickstarter were very personal things. You know, I don't know that anybody had done it yet, but I think it's for $10,000, you have the option of getting his unique visor from him being Geordi.
Yeah.
Or you could have lunch with him. You could have a Skype chat with him. You could
He'll retweet you. He'll follow you on Twitter for only a year,
but still, you know, it's very personal.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of LeVar Burton will do this, LeVar Burton will do that, LeVar Burton will do this other thing. And it's just like, dang, he is like,
it's like
really passionate about
he's
this.
putting himself out there, whereas, you know, I can't get Zach Braff to give me the time of day, but, you know, that's a whole nother thing right there. But, you know, this is for a good cause. We're always talking about how it's nice with certain things when they come back, when they serve the right purpose, a whole new generation gets touched by it. So I'm very much looking forward to how a new generation responds to reading Rainbow in this digital format.
Yeah. Now, this totally wasn't even one of our stories or anything.
We just wanted to kind of gush on him for a
In fact,
second.
we didn't even get to talking about what our stories are.
But we have 3 like usual, so here we go.
I know we keep bringing up Jurassic World as far as...
oh, wait, we did this wrong. Jurassic World. Thank you.
I know we keep bringing it up as far as follow-up segments are concerned, but we felt like there's enough recent update news on Jurassic World
within the past week or so.
Within this past week about its plot and what we're supposed to think about it to warrant it being its own full story. So we're going to talk a little more about that in a little bit.
We waited a little bit from last week to talk about this story just so we could get all of the news together and give you guys as much as possible, but the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a little bit in a huff right now due to the fact that Edgar Wright, you know, famed director of Shaun of the Dead and, you know, the whole Cornetto trilogy, has left the Ant-Man project, and we're going to talk about why he would do such a thing and the reasons why why Marvel wanted to part ways with him one way or the other. And then our third story kind of relates to the problems we were having tonight.
Oh, yeah. Well, our third story is kind of a mix of a number of things. We're basing it off a major news story about Nintendo planning to share revenue with YouTube Let's Players, which could be both a good and a bad thing. But at the same time, we kind of wanted to also talk about, is there a possibility of Twitch getting purchased by Google? And then maybe in the middle of all that there, talk about this recent blip-pocalypse that's been going on with
We're copywriting that blip-pocalypse right now.
Blip-pocalypse.
Blip-pocalypse. Blip-pocalypse. It's fun to say.
That's a little difficult to say, actually.
A little difficult to say.
It's kind of like Totopoulos, actually.
Mr. Nico Papadopoulos?
It's Totopoulos.
Mr. Tattoo Plus? They actually never said that. I was weirded out.
Mr. Tattoo Plus?
Yeah, because that's... I thought that would have been the easy way to mess his name up.
You know what? Never mind.
Forget it.
It doesn't even... no relevance.
So those were our 3 starting stories. Let's go to our follow-ups. So... you remember last week we talked about Left 4 Dead getting a port to Japanese arcades.
Which I thought looked really friggin' interesting, and I was really interested in seeing how the characters interact with each other anyway.
Well, turns out you were probably wrong about that, because apparently, based off a recent Kotaku article, it's not doing so hot. Really what it comes down to is the amount of time you're allowed to play the game for. If you put in basically the equivalent of $3 US, you get to play for about 15 minutes, and then after that point, it kind of becomes like Gauntlet Legends or Dark Legacy, where you have to keep feeding it money to keep playing.
Like, that makes sense when you lose lives. Like, everybody's familiar with the Quarter Eater game, you know?
Yeah.
But to feed it... What are you doing?
Just doing some math.
To feed it money every 15 minutes just as an arbitrary, oh, keep playing the game another 15 minutes, seems a little lame to me. A little bit lame. And I guess people weren't so thrilled with the control scheme, and they just didn't feel like there was a need to make it an arcade port.
Well, it's also the problem that people are saying, you know, it's cool for one playthrough, but that's about it. Which goes back to what I was saying last week. Why didn't they just turn this into Left 4 Dead 3 and make some new maps? They could have solved this whole problem.
So does Japan have this available for PC? Because if it's available for PC, then I sort of understand there not being a point to putting it in arcades.
Well, that's the thing. It's not. It's not.
Well, I guess that's the same for when Half-Life 2 came out over there and they tried to give it an arcade. Like, I'm sort of wondering if they think that this works because Japan still has a somewhat functioning arcade scene, and they're not really so much PC first-person shooter type people.
Right.
I'm assuming that's why they thought maybe this would work, and maybe Japan just isn't the right audience. I guess that's all there is to it.
Because I'm trying to think about it. Like, you take any average playthrough we have, your initial $3 gets you 15 minutes. on average, it takes you maybe about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour to clear a map completely, you know, from start to finish. And I just did the math right now using my trusty calculator. Watch. Another $1 gives you another 4.5 minutes. So how many more... I hate to turn this into a math course. How many dollars would you have to feed this thing to take up, let's say, 45 minutes of playtime?
Yeah, I was going to say, sometimes it can take us 45 minutes depending on the map.
And depending on the difficulty. You know, because sometimes the director can get really, you know, pissed off at you and send you, like, 3 tanks in a row, followed by 2 boomers and as many smokers as you can shake a stick at.
I wonder then, if you die, is it like game over, or do you go back to the beginning of that portion of the map?
I don't know, because I don't see how that would lend itself to it in an arcade setting.
Yeah, now in an arcade setting, I would imagine if you're dead, you're dead. You don't get any redos until you put another yen in there, or another 100 yen in there, and start all over again.
Right.
Yeah, I guess it just plain wouldn't work as an arcade machine.
Yeah, which makes me question why they did it in the first place.
Oh, I just really want the characters. I really
still
would
feel
love
that.
To,
I still
to
feel that.
See the characters in our Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2.
Well, here's hoping. Okay, the next thing we were going to cover is that since we covered the stories before, we can confirm that Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice and Terminator Genesis have started filming.
Oh boy.
And we actually have set pictures from the filming of Terminator Genesis, and we don't have any of them on us.
I would suggest you go ahead and at least put that in our chat window.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and put that in the chat window for you guys, but here you can see Emilia Clarke, who people would of course know from Game of Thrones, there as Sarah Connor, and in the background you'll clearly see an aged Arnold Schwarzenegger as your regular T-800.
I'm still not buying the whole, yeah, we put skin on the thing and the skin ages like a normal person, and I'm just sitting here thinking, but you're a robot. No, it shouldn't work that way. We should be far enough into the future that you figured that mess out.
I know,
like,
I know.
Can we just not, like, isn't there, that's why Brett Spiner doesn't want to be Data anymore, because he knew, no, Data's an android and he wouldn't age, but I do, so I'm not going to play Data anymore.
Like here in this picture, you can see Arnold Schwarzenegger here, and he's got grayed out hair. They look like they might have given him a small facelift just from the looks of it, and he's in this. Basically, he looks like the T-800 if he retired. You know, because he's not wearing black leather anymore. He's not carrying a gun. He's not wearing sunglasses. He doesn't even look like himself in the movie that started his career. Mm-hmm. Or really, you know, boosted his career.
Yeah, I would not say started his career at all. But
yeah, because that would have been Conan and, you know, pumping iron. Conan, I'm sorry. But point being, you know, I don't see the purpose here. Mm-hmm. We're here for a robot, not old, raggedy, skinned Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
And then Emilia Clarke as Sarah Connor here. There is the time travel element, so this is probably a younger Sarah Connor.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of strength in her yet.
Well, no, see, the thing is, if you watch Game of Thrones, you know she can play fierce. She's got that, so it's all a matter of the script bringing that out in her.
Fierce and fierce.
Well, she's got fierce.
Okay.
You know, she's the mom of those dragons. She knows how to do this. I didn't doubt her casting. The only thing I would say is just she looks a little short next to the guy here who's playing Kyle Reese, but you know, I don't think that'll be too much problem.
Yeah, that doesn't bother me.
And then the last thing that we'll bring up, it's not an update, just something that we bring up briefly, and once we get more information on this, we'll tell you guys more about it. So we complain about reboots a lot.
Boy, are there ever reboots.
So, I don't know if you guys knew this, Stargate is getting a reboot.
Yay. Was that necessary? Like, we had 80 bajillion different Stargate. It had a cartoon series.
It had the movie, it had the cartoon, like, SG-1, Atlantis. Like, it's out there.
It's in the ether. We don't need a reboot. Okay, that's all I need to say about that, really.
Really, because, like, I didn't think anybody was crying out for an Independence Day sequel that hard. I don't think people were going to be crying out for a Stargate reboot that hard.
And then, what was the other movie that's getting rebooted?
Okay, well, it's not even a nerd thing. You guys remember Sylvester Stallone doing the movie Cliffhanger? That's getting a reboot. What is even the friggin' point? Is he gonna come back for that? Old, you know...
What was the list of things that I saw,
in 1993.
In 1993, we got Jurassic Park...
Stargate...
No. It was Jurassic Park, Cliffhanger, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. So what do we have this year? Within, like, this next year-ish... Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles...
Jurassic World... And Cliffhanger. Why?
That is ridiculous.
Why? I can't even.
What year is it? What year
I don't even know
is it?
I don't know what year it is anymore. I really don't. Look at me, I'm still wearing a calculator watch. I don't know what year it is. I'm over here complaining about Power Rangers and Gem. I don't know what year it is. Hollywood doesn't know what year it is. And having said that, that's a good lead into our first story about what year we don't know it is.
Oh yeah, is it Jurassic World time?
It's Jurassic World time.
Okay, it's Jurassic World time. So yes, more information on Jurassic World. And this was information that was coming out of, who was this? The director?
Yes.
Was what's the name of the director?
Colin Trevorrow.
So we know for a fact, we've confirmed now that Jurassic Park is a fully functional park.
Fully functional, like, Disney-level theme park.
It's still on Isla Nublar. Apparently it gets, like, 20,000 visitors every day. Like, this is the scenario within the movie. But, you know, people kind of, sort of, you know, they've seen it. They've done it. Whatever.
Well, because the story takes place 20 years after the original. And as such, what they're 22 years, I'm sorry. 22 years after the original, and by this point, they've managed to figure out how to get the park up and running.
Sour Punch straw?
Yeah, I'll take one. So, what ends up happening is that with this park open for so long, people have been able to go to this park for several years, and as such, they've gotten tired of it. So, it's getting kind of lame. Kind of like the idea of the franchise is, which is kind of funny there. And they are saying the way they want to depict that on screen is that it's a park that John Hammond would have been proud of people to attend.
Well, you remember what I said in our Q&A session last time, right? Where I was just really sad at the end of Jurassic Park, like, Mom, he just wanted to make a park with dinosaurs. He just wanted to make people happy.
Which admittedly is all Hammond wanted. But as such, I guess the blood-sucking lawyers of the world have their way, and when they see that ticket sales are diminishing, they decide, you know what? We can confirm what we talked about a little bit last week. They do come up with a new dinosaur. One of the park's geneticists decides to fill in the gaps in that DNA sequence with a different animal. In the original movie, they used a frog's DNA to fill in the gaps for creating the dinosaurs. Here, it'll be something that they wanted to have more teeth, louder, bigger, more dinosaur-y, and that's exactly what they get. And that's
here's
probably
the question I ask.
Will go rampaging.
Here's the question I ask. Like, okay, you figured out how to maintain the park after it screwed up the first time, right?
Well, technically first 2 times.
Yeah, so I understand that apparently, within the context of this movie, the park's been doing kind of alright. But, considering the history of rampaging dinosaurs eating people, which one of these genetic scientists decided that this would be a good idea?
I don't even know. And see,
and why would I believe? Just why would I buy into it? Why?
Because let's look at this logically, if we can. They're trying to put this in a modern setting where people, you know, would be. They even self-describe the mental image of a guy there with his girl at the park, and he takes a selfie with a T-Rex behind, you know, protective glass. You know, that, you know, the kind of culture we live in now. So you think about it, how did they, because that's interesting to me, how did they get the park up and running? Mm-hmm. How did they convince people to let this be a good idea? That would be a story
I would want to see.
Like,
that story.
Was there an Indiegogo? Was there a Kickstarter? Hey, you guys want to chill with the dinosaurs? Give $5, $10. You know, if you give $100,000, we'll let you pet the dang thing for an hour.
For an hour?
I don't know. You know, I don't run an Indiegogo.
Actually, that sounds like a That actually sounds like a movie that maybe I would have watched. Like, oh, you finally tricked the public into thinking this was a good idea. Now, how did you do that? I would watch that movie. What I don't want to watch is a monster movie. Because I've mentioned it before, and I'll say it again kind of briefly. Jurassic Park had a sense of wonderment about it the first time around because nobody had ever seen it before. And they're basically admitting as much within these pages here
Yes.
that are written in these interviews that, yeah, people have seen it and done it, and that's both the audience watching these movies and is also reflected in the movie as if people have been there, done that. So how do we shake it up? We make a monster and we give you a monster movie. And I don't feel like that makes it Jurassic Park.
Because let's put this into real world context. Earlier this week, we went to our local Six Flags, not over Texas. I forgot where we are. Six Flags Fiesta, Texas, and you kind of look at it the same way because that park's not exactly the place it once was when it first opened 20 some odd years ago. Times have changed. People don't necessarily go out to theme parks all the time the way they might have used to when it's brand new and things are shiny and well kept. After years of people getting used to it, people finding other options for entertainment, it's not exactly the big draw that it used to be. So how do you keep it relevant for a new audience? You add a new roller coaster, but how does that work when you don't maintain what's already there?
Yeah.
So you put that into perspective for Jurassic World. Okay, so you've had this park, it's open for so long, you've got these other attractions that might not be doing so hot. What do? You add a new dinosaur to the mix.
Mm-hmm.
If you maintain what the other dinosaur attractions are capable of showing to an audience, then maybe you wouldn't be doing so bad. Really, the problem here that I see in the movie isn't dinosaurs rampaging, it's their business model.
Mm-hmm.
And that's stupid. I don't want to watch a movie where it's about their bad business model.
Really? I get their commentary on it. Like, well, we want to bring something fresh and new to Jurassic Park. Side story, we want to bring something fresh and new to Jurassic Park for the movie-going audience. How do we do the brand new, fresh thing? How do we change our business model so that people will keep coming back? And is there anyone, the answer is no, but is there anyone in Hollywood who's just saying, you know what, maybe it was fine the way it was, and maybe if you have to inject it with some brand new thing that doesn't make it the thing it once was, then maybe we shouldn't be doing it at all. But nobody says that because it's gonna make bank. No matter what, people are gonna go watch it.
Well, yeah, because it's kind of the whole thing. For lack of a better term, and somebody in the chat right now just gave me the idea. It's kind of the way Saban's treating things with their treatment of Power Rangers. Dinosaurs sell. They got us off the ground in the first place. Let's buy the new dinosaur one directly. Let's bring that over here as quick as possible. How is Jurassic World handling it? Dinosaurs sold. They got us off the ground in the first place. You know what? Let's put out a bigger dinosaur. That's how we're going to solve our problems. Just throw some dinosaurs at it. That's what we're going to do. Just throw some dinosaurs at it. And I don't know. And I bring up this other quote here that they bring up about how the dinosaurs in the park are being treated. There are predators and prey. The T-Rex in the first movie took lives and saved lives. You couldn't interpret it one way or the other as good or bad. And then you've got the new character portrayed by Chris Pratt, who you'll see later on this year in Guardians of the Galaxy as Star-Lord. He's doing behavioral research on the raptors. They confirm they are not trained.
See, that's the one good thing that I'll be like, alright, okay, at least that piece of garbage is in fact garbage.
Right. They're not trained, they can't do tricks. He's just trying to figure out the limits of the relationship between these creatures and human beings. So I guess that relegates him to kind of the Dr. Grant, Dr. Malcolm role, except he actually works there at the park. And then from there, I don't know. I mean, that's a start.
I will admit that really the worst part of all of this that I'm hearing is, in fact, this new
dinosaur.
Yeah, this new genetically tampered with dinosaur. I don't really care to see that part of it, but maybe they can win me over with the rest of it, but I have to admit I'm not entirely optimistic. I will wait further for trailers. I think that's all I can do right now.
No, that's understandable. I can see that. Because really, we have to wait a little bit. They just started filming. We're going to have to wait to see some more set photos. I mean, there's a few light ones out there right now.
No dinosaurs.
No dinosaurs yet. Of course, we got to wait for post for that, or even if they're using some animatronics, which would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, we're going to have to wait for more news, more photos, and of course a trailer once we get to that to see whether or not they're actually going to be able to do what they say they're trying to do and breathe life into this franchise, which, kind of to echo the sentiment of the first movie, really I don't think they should have been messing with in the first place.
Yeah. I guess that's it for now, so we can move on to another topic, and I guess we're going to move on to talking about Ant-Man, right?
Yes, Ant-Man. Okay, so you've heard us over the course of these episodes extol Marvel's brilliant plans to bring these heroes to life on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we've seen it from Iron Man all those years ago, now to a post-Avengers world that we live in, where everybody knows about heroes. And now going into Phase 3, or, finishing out Phase 2, going into Phase 3, they're still looking to introduce new heroes. People that don't normally know about comics get introduced through these movies, and then they have a new experience and a new character to like. So one of these characters in specific is Ant-Man, which was in development for several years with director Edgar Wright at the helm. And really, the thing to consider with this is that it has been no secret Edgar Wright was at the heart of this project. Not only was he an avid fan, admittedly, of Ant-Man as a character, having, copies of the original appearance of him in Marvel Comics in all those years ago in the 60s, but he was there writing it. He had written several drafts, meeting with Stan Lee directly, Kevin Feige saying, the reason we're getting this project off the ground at all is because of his vision.
Right.
And admittedly, if you know anything about Ant-Man, he's a very core character to the comics. Granted, not many people know him outside the comics, maybe more so now with things like Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes out there, where admittedly he was one of the core founding members of the Avengers. Of course, the movie audience wouldn't see that because that tells a different story, but that's fine. You're getting it out there just for people to be aware of it. Well, now that's kind of in trouble because Edgar left earlier this week.
And apparently so did a number of other people on the project, right?
Yes. Really, this is a bad time to be doing that because they were getting ready to start filming next
week? Oh, God.
Less than a week. And they were getting ready to start filming, and they just lost their director. I don't know what else would make the blood drain from my face if I was working on that movie.
Well, apparently his reason for leaving was because they made a whole bunch of sudden last-minute changes to the script without consulting him to begin with, right?
That's the prevalent story that's going around, that a lot of rewrites were ordered and not run by him, which, that happens a lot. You think back to things going into The Incredible Hulk and a little bit in The Avengers. That's part of the reason Edward Norton left. Edward Norton served as kind of a little bit ghostwriter on the set of The Incredible Hulk, and for me, that's one of the better Marvel movies. I really loved his take on Bruce Banner. I really think he captured kind of what entranced audiences before with the 70s series with Bill Bixby. They were honing in on that, and I think they got that. Because admittedly to me, and I know some people might disagree with that, Mark Ruffalo still has to prove himself as Bruce Banner, because they only gave him so much to do in the Avengers. Eventually he'll have that chance. But here with Ant-Man, you're telling an origin story, and he was there writing this origin story and crafting it for years, bringing together these two men who have held up the mantle, Hank Pym and Scott Lang, both of whom now we know are being played by Michael Douglas and Paul Rudd respectively. And they were going to tell this different story that didn't involve Ultron. He had admitted that Ultron wasn't part of the script. They were going to be fine with putting Ultron in the second Avengers movie. Everything would have been fine.
Yeah.
It would have fit just perfectly. And we had been hearing all of this news for months. That, oh yeah, we're working on this. We're crafting it. We're going at it. We've already got a suit. We've already got a proof of concept little footage reel that they showed with that little hour special there on ABC a couple of months ago. And it looked like this thing was really coming together. And the guy who's responsible for most of it is no longer at the helm.
That's really quite terrifying. And they haven't They haven't said who would fill his shoes yet.
No, they say they're honing in on somebody, but really, I can't see that as anything but.
But panic! Oh God, we need somebody! We need somebody!
Oh God, get on the phone now! Now, who do we got? Pull out a Rolodex. I don't care. Don't use your phone. Pull out Rolodexes. Whoever you've got available, get them on the horn now because we need this thing out there. Because really, this is. I don't want to call it a screw up, but this is the first major flub, I should say, that Marvel Cinema has had to face now because they've had. Not exactly the most spotless track record, but a pretty decent track record when you average everything out.
Sure.
With the way they've been doing things.
Not every single movie that they've produced has been, like, comic accurate or anything.
Right, no.
But they've been entertaining pieces of media that definitely get the core of what each character is supposed to be.
Right. And that's what they're being... usually that's what they're becoming known for now.
I would imagine that Edgar Wright would not have left if he didn't think that that they were really bad rewrites.
Now, that can go back to a number of things, and we have to examine the characters here. Basically, if you're talking about telling the story of two Ant-Men, Hank Pym and Scott Lang, you're looking at two very different sides of a coin here. Simply enough, Scott Lang, who's the second Ant-Man, for those of you who don't know, is a guy who has a daughter who was sick, and he needed to get some money, and long story short, he ended up stealing the Ant-Man suit and using it to basically save his daughter, get the money, and kind of accidentally along the way become a hero. That's a simple enough story.
Sure.
And you could have told that story just that way. You could have told us, hey, we're just telling the story of Scott Lang. That would have been one thing, but no, they're being true enough to bring Hank Pym into the mix, and the way they were saying it is that they're doing it in kind of a flashback sort of way where Hank Pym was Ant-Man in like the 60s or the 70s, and now he's kind of retired.
Which, I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. So he wouldn't be using the suit, and then, that frees it up for Scott Lang to use, and that's fine. But as such, you have to tell that the right way. Because I can see how you could screw that up real easy.
Oh, yeah. This is why I'm saying if Wright decided he needed to leave, if he was that passionate about Ant-Man, and if he was working on it for years, like, would you not be pissed if core elements of what you thought these characters were supposed to be and what they were supposed to be doing, if somebody went and screwed with that, yeah, you'd be pissed, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because if this is his baby, basically, you treat this movie as your baby, and somebody's trying to jack with your baby, yeah, you're going to get defensive. And
of course, usually you don't walk away from your baby.
Yeah, no, of course not. But
we can't take it that far.
And people, and honestly, it was such a big deal for people for years knowing that he was attached to the project. Because you look at his other work, the Cornetto trilogy, Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, The World's End, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Great movies, great stories, great characters, great visuals.
And with Scott Pilgrim, it was about the best adaptation you could have possibly asked for up until the very end of the movie, but that's because the very last part of the comic had not yet been released when the movie came out, so that's okay. But it was pretty dang spot on. If he can get that spot on with something like Scott Pilgrim with all sorts of wild, really super comic book looking visuals, then what would Ant-Man have been?
And I think we got a taste of it there in that little, 2-minute clip of him, going down a hallway and knocking out guards and going back from being small to large, and getting a sense of his power, because he really said in a lot of interviews, that he wanted to hone in on the core of what Ant-Man was and just let that be a standalone movie. Not let it would have ties to the other Marvel movies, but let's just let it be a movie.
Yeah.
Let it stand on its own, and then from there, you want people to be able to digest the concept of the way he enlarges and shrinks. Let that be its own thing. That's enough story to tell. And I respected that. Many people respected that about what he wanted to do with it. So that makes me wonder, kind of like you said, my question is, why would they jack with that?
Probably because they don't think that a normal movie-going audience would have gotten it.
I think that's the dumbest thing they could have done. This dude he obviously knows what he's doing. All of his movies make bank. On a financial level alone, you should have trusted him.
Yeah.
But really, when you have to start second-guessing the guy, really with no reason, like, from every interview that had been given, I don't think he'd given any point to the brass at Marvel to be like, maybe we should go behind his back and rewrite. No, he seemed to have a pretty good handle on what the material called for. So, I can't understand why they would need to go behind his back for rewrites. And then, yeah, as such, other people on his team left, producers and writers. It's like, well, you know, are you with me or are you against me sort of thing. I hope that wasn't the case.
Well, I don't think it's like that. I would sooner say that, whoa, the guy helming the project isn't going to be helming the project anymore. Shoot, we're not sticking around for this. Or they follow him and they trust him. They're his friends who worked with him before. You know, these are people who trusted him, and so they don't want to work on a project that he got, you know, snuffed on.
Yeah, but you think about it too. Like, I understand that. I really do understand that. I'll say that much. At my normal job, I have a manager who watches out for my back. He's got a good idea of how to handle things. He's been there for a while, and I've told him several times, if you ever quit or you retire, I'm quitting. Because I don't want to have to put up with somebody who doesn't have your head on their shoulders, you know? And I can understand that. If the keystone of the project gets taken away, how are you going to keep the whole thing from crumbling?
Yeah, it would fall. It would collapse.
Because kind of going back to the whole Jurassic Park thing, how is Marvel going to solve the loss of such a big piece of the puzzle? Giraffe money. Just throw some money at it.
Because they're gonna get a director. Like, that's not even a problem. The problem is, like, whoever they get, one, has got to get to work really fast, and two, has not been with the project for so long.
7 years.
Knowing all the intricacies
years.
Of what this is supposed to become.
Not only that, you look at it, not only have they not worked on it in development for 7 years, not only would they have to get to work with less than 7 days to get their stuff together, they're also not a fan. That's also a big part of it, I think, too, is the fact that Edgar Wright is a vehement fan of Ant-Man. And that's stuff you can't replace.
Yeah.
You know, you either get it or you don't. Like, when Kevin Smith says anything about a comic book movie, I believe him, because I know he's written, he's read, he's got his stuff down. I trust him.
He's passionate as hell.
You can't replace that passion, because it's always what we've said. Fans can get something right that a normal suit at any sort of production company would miss. And I trust fans. Edgar Wright was a fan, and now that fan has left.
A fan with, you know, a good business head on his shoulders.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, you gotta have the two things together.
Yes, of course, which is why Marvel trusted him in the first place.
Because you can't just pick up any fanfic writer off the street.
No. Then you'd end up with something horrible.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that makes me a bit worried. It's got a lot of people worried, because, you know, for a lot of people, you know, he's one of these characters that they've been waiting to see adapted ever since they heard that the project was even being worked on. So now you've gone from this big old, you know, crescendo of, oh, we're getting there. Oh, we've got a cast. We've got a script. We've got the director. We got this. Oh,
somebody
crap.
pulled out the bottom card in the House of Cards. Oh, Jenga.
Yeah. So, I don't know what they're gonna do. I really don't. Hopefully, they will get a capable director. We'll probably ring in...
Keep watching this next week for a new director for Ant-Man.
Yeah, exactly.
They better hope they get somebody within this next week.
They better hope. But you better believe, though, the first thing they're going to do is like, hey, are you available to direct Ant-Man? We have money. We can pay you up front.
Part now. You might have to wait for a little bit of it. But we promise it'll all get to you.
Yes. I honestly can't imagine who would be a better replacement for him. At this point, I can't even venture to offer someone's name up. I'm not even going to try.
I'm just going to let the news do that for me later.
Yeah, so I guess, stay tuned to next week's show when hopefully we can tell you guys who his replacement is.
Okay. So we're done with that story for now. We want to move on to information about updates about streaming media and video games, and maybe a little stuff about internet review shows. We'll see.
So to start with, we've got this news on Nintendo's plans on sharing revenue with people who do Let's Plays.
On YouTube, specifically. You might remember last year-ish, Nintendo was going after people who were streaming or were uploading videos of their video games, and they were, sending cease and desists or getting videos removed or channels shut down, that sort of thing. And fans were having an outcry over it, and so Nintendo was finally like, oh, this is bad for business, let's cool off for a little bit.
Good for you.
Now the update this week is that Nintendo's like, no, we can work together. Like, already Nintendo has been putting their advertisements on YouTube videos that have their content in it. Like, okay, that's fine. But now it's, well, let's share revenue. They've gotten a comment, Kotaku specifically got a statement out of Nintendo. I'll go ahead and read the statement in full here because it's only so long. And they say, Nintendo has been permitting the use of Nintendo copyrighted material in videos on YouTube under appropriate circumstances. Advertisements may accompany those videos, and in keeping with previous policy, that revenue is shared between YouTube and Nintendo. In addition, for those who wish to use the material more proactively, we're preparing an affiliate program in which a portion of the advertising profit is given to the creator. Details about this affiliate program will be announced in the future. So they don't fully have the details all worked out and written out yet. So the good news is you could still make money off of your videos that you're uploading to YouTube. The bad news is that if you were doing that, Nintendo wants half your profits.
Yeah, that's kind of hard. Now, you think about it, though, with Mario Kart 8 coming out, we just heard from, Jared's review, that they have an option in there for uploading your gameplay from Mario Kart 8 directly to YouTube.
About a minute's worth of replay
About a minute,
footage,
2 minutes, not very much, but they're building it in now. They're aware of the Let's Play audience, their presence, I guess, in media now is a thing. That's free advertising, basically. But now it's not just free advertising because they're putting these ads on them.
Yeah.
And then having to split profits, essentially. So, I think it's good of Nintendo to do that. I just don't know if half is the number I would have gone with.
Well, I mean, as a copyright holder, I totally get the desire to pursue full rights to your images. Like, I get that, but then at the same time, if, say, someone is doing a full-fledged review, not just a Let's Play,
right.
I think there's a strong difference between Let's Plays and reviews and critiques and making something completely new. Like, I really feel like a Let's Player has to be the most dang entertaining personality to go along with it for that to be even worth it. As it is,
I'll say that much. I've seen Let's Plays that can ruin a good game. Because the person either doesn't know what they're talking about, or they're kind of boring, or don't even say anything.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm just watching gameplay footage, or I'm watching the gameplay footage and they get up to like a cutscene and then they talk all over the cutscene.
Yeah.
They've got to be an entertaining personality for me to even want to watch them at all. But then for them to earn money off of it, I think that's something different. But when you're making, like I said, an entirely new piece of media out of it, if you're creating new entertainment out of it, if you're taking the time to stop and cut it up and be informative and entertaining at the same time, perhaps, then yeah, I think you deserve, the appropriate reaction, the appropriate response, the appropriate attention for the time you took to work with it and share that information with people and be informative to somebody.
Now, if you're not going to put it on YouTube, where else would you put it?
Well, I guess what we've been doing, of course, with Channel Awesome, well, most of us have been working with Blip. Of course, we all know about this whole Blipocalypse thing happening right now. As you guys know, most of you would know anyway, a while back, Disney bought Maker Studios, the YouTube studios that hold a ton of different really entertaining YouTube channels. Well, Maker also owns Blip, therefore I produce videos for Blip, Blip provides its videos for Maker, and Maker provides its videos for Disney. Umbrella Arc, I make videos for Disney, kind of. Except, it's kind of looking like people are slowly disappearing left and right, and that includes a number of our Channel Awesome producers, and for some reason, I almost don't feel like I deserve it, but for some reason they have not killed off my Blip channel. Fingers crossed right now, and knock on wood that that's gonna remain okay. There's rumors flying all over the place that Blip is gonna crash and burn. I sincerely hope not. A number of our Channel Awesome producers have kind of turned to Patreon, for example, to kind of keep afloat. I think I would go toward Patreon if I felt like... My only problem is to keep my head afloat right now, I need my full-time job, and therefore I can't dedicate as much time to producing videos as I once could about 2 or more years ago, when I was making it my full-time job at the time. And unfortunately, this also partners hand in hand with how much ad revenue Blip has been giving its producers. They've slowly given us less and less as time has gone on. It used to be that it was a big deal, like all the money comes in during the holiday season, and that's pretty typical. Ad revenue really goes up during the holiday season because, people are buying.
Well, not just people are buying, people are at home more because it's cold outside. They don't want to go out, so they're watching stuff.
But no, seriously, for the season, people are buying seasonal things all the time, so there's a need for advertisement. But during the summer, ad revenue went down, so I couldn't... It just really was unreliable to me. And it's just kind of... that was predictable at the time, that you would have a winter high and a summer low, but now that's not even predictable anymore. So, Patreon, I think, would be a good avenue for me if I thought that it could also pay my bills, and then I could dedicate my whole full-time job to video making. I would love to do that. I'm just not so certain that I have the core audience that would care to do that, and I also don't know what I could offer them as additional incentives. So that's why that has not yet been an option for me, but a number of our producers, well, good for them, fantastic for them.
Yeah.
They've been able to make good on their Patreons, and Lupa and Phalus, and I know recently Leon, unfortunately, he was one of our dudes that Blip dropped. He just found out, and that's really damaging to him. So he's got a Patreon that you guys should definitely check out for the Renegade cut.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to mention something else. Oh, with all of our problems we've been having with Twitch today alone.
Yeah, that part of our delay.
And I doubt that it has anything to do with it, but there's rumors flying around that Google could, in fact, pick up Twitch. So, issues that...
What exactly does that amount to, though? Because Google's got enough as it is. If they get Twitch, what do they get out of it?
Well, consider the fact that Google has YouTube, right?
Right.
Which sort of makes you wonder, what sort of DMCA crap could they then drop onto Twitch? It could completely shatter Twitch. Justin.tv is one thing, because Twitch was a branch off of Justin.
Right.
But Twitch being completely game-centric, it's all nothing but copyrighted images. And everybody knows it, and really the video game industry's pretty much okay with it. But YouTube, they flag blindly. Blindly, whether the video game developers actually wanted to flag it or not. So it just sort of makes me wonder, if Google were in fact to buy Twitch, I think our world would be over.
Well, no, because seeing the long-term ramifications of that, because we already talked about, what was it, the YouTube apocalypse.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about the blip apocalypse. What's next, the Twitch apocalypse?
Apparently, and again, these are just rumors. Nothing has been confirmed as to whether or not Google is in fact making this purchase. But it has been rumored on a number of sites, and I think I even saw it on Game Politics, actually. And Game Politics had a number of readers polled on what they thought was going to happen. And, yeah, they were really concerned about copyright claims and DMCA notices.
Well, because the way we do it every week is that we stream this on Twitch and then load it to YouTube.
Now, maybe that could be an interesting thing where your Twitch channel automatically saves things to your YouTube channel, and then I wouldn't have to jump through hoops to re-upload it to YouTube. It's not exactly difficult to do as it is right now, but it is a little inconvenient. But if I could just insta-save it directly to YouTube rather than, oh, we're busy uploading and converting to YouTube, just sit here and wait patiently with no bar letting you know how it's doing.
Yeah, which is kind of annoying.
It could fail, but you would never know. I guess you would know if it just never showed up.
You would know because you wouldn't see anything, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
But really, we say all that to say...
That's the one positive thing I can think.
We say all that to say that, unfortunately, due to the nature of things as they are now, yeah, the future of streaming on the internet is a little weird right now. Things look positive with the Nintendo deal, with the splitting the money on the Let's Plays, but at the same time when we're having to deal with people losing, for some of them, livelihoods by blip removing their channels, that's hard to deal with.
Nintendo too, because some people were making full advertising revenue until Nintendo came in and then chopped that in half.
And then from there, we're basically running out of places to run now that we're on Twitch, and we're not sure if that's going to work out. I just don't want to have to cover a story about the Vine apocalypse. That's going too far. You really want 6 seconds of ad revenue? Really? Is that what it's come to?
Can you even do ad revenue over Vine?
No, I'm just saying I don't want it to ever have to come to that.
I don't ever want to be a Vine producer that's like, oh, hey, come click on the ads on my Vine. I've only got 6 seconds to click on. Oh, I missed it!
Yeah. So
I also don't want to sit through 30 seconds of an advertisement to watch a 6-second video.
No, that would be ridiculous.
Absolutely
Hashtag Vinepocalypse. Thank you, guys. Okay, but that having been said, I think that covers all of our stories for the evening.
Pretty much, and we're coming down to the end of the wire on our hour. Thankfully, we were able to time how long that hour was, despite the fact that we were like 13 minutes late.
Give or take.
So
for those of you guys watching live right now, stick around. You guys can have the chance to have the Q&A with us after the show, usually for about 30 minutes, so that's going to be a lot of fun. But in the meantime, for those of you watching us on YouTube, I don't know why you're not here on the live show. Maybe you've got reasons, but find some reasons to come over here when we're doing this live.
And that's usually at... Usually, I say usually because it didn't happen tonight, but usually at 9 p.m. Central Time on Thursday nights, which, by the way, we've only got maybe 2 or 3 more episodes in us before we need to go on a wedding hiatus.
Yes.
So, that having been said, I guess that's it for now, but you can always follow us on Twitter. I'm at MarsGirl.
And I'm at Josh Knight First.
And that's it for this episode of Beyond the Black Rims, and we'll see you next time.
Alright, guys, take care.